We begin today the Gemara on Daf Samachei Amud Aleph, 7 lines down from the top of the Yamud, where it says Amalei Ravina LeRavashi. So the Gemara before brought a machlekes between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim regarding a person that's selling a property, and the question is, do we say that Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Yafa Moicher? When a person sells, he's selling generously, and therefore, in the case that was being discussed here before, is that if you're selling a house and then there's a pit that you're keeping for yourself, does that mean that you gave up any way to access that pit because I sold a house and I sold it buying Yafa? So if I want to have a route, a way to go to it, I'm going to have to buy it separately. Or do you say no? This is Chachamim's opinion. Rabbi Akiva holds Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Yafa Moicher. Chachamim say Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Ra Moicher. When a person sells, he's selling for the money and he wants to sell the minimum that he can get away with for this amount of money that he's getting paid, and he's not looking to sell generously and to give. And that in the case that I just mentioned, if he sold a house and a pit and he's keeping the pit for himself, we assume that he meant to keep access of a pathway to that pit for himself as well. He sold a house. That's the Chachamim. Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Ra Moicher. Yeah. And the Gemara here brought that regarding the halacha, whether we paskin like Rabbi Akiva, the Chachamim, Rav Huna said in the name of Rav that we paskin like the Chachamim, Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Ra Moicher, and in the name of Shmuel it was said that we paskin like Rabbi Akiva, that Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Yafa Moicher. So now based on this, the Gemara brings another case where Rav and Shmuel were arguing about the same point, whether you go say Moicher Ba'ayin Yafa or Moicher Ba'ayin Ra.
So applying Rabbi Akiva to the case you just gave, there's the pit.
The pit that's in the house.
So
according to
Rabbi Akiva, the seller included the pathway.
The seller, meaning the seller will not have a pathway for himself. He included that pathway in the sale, that he sold it all. He sold it all to the Lekeach. Correct. Correct. Amalei Ravina LeRavashi. So Ravina says to Ravashi, Leime Ozdul Tamaya. Shall we say that what Rav and Shmuel says here, they follow their reasoning in another place? They basically already said the same point in a different place. Because Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, Ha'achin Shacholku. Brothers that are dividing the inheritance, and they divided it in such a way that you have the outer property and the inner property, or the outer house and then the house that's a room in the house that's behind. One brother gets what's inside and the other one gets what's outside. Now, in order for the brother that lives inside to be able to get to his house that's inside, he would also need a pathway to pass through to access his house on the inside. So in this case, so Shmuel said, Ein lahem loy derech zeh al zeh. So over here, the one that lives inside will not have a pathway going through the outer house to get to his house on the inside. And what this means is, because when they divided, the brother on the inside, when you make a division of inheritance, so it's like they're selling to one another. I take this part, and in exchange, you take the other part. So the brother on the inside is selling to the brother on the outside his portion, his home on the outside. And therefore, according to Shmuel, that follows Rabbi Akiva, that says, Kol HaMoicher Ba'ayin Yafa Moicher, the brother on the inside gave the brother on the outside the rights to his house fully, not leaving even for himself an access, a pathway to go through. And also, if the case is different, when one brother has the downstairs, the other one has to go up then the stairs, upstairs, a ladder. So he's sold and gave the rights to his brother living downstairs fully, and he doesn't have a way with a ladder to go up. He's going to have to acquire that separately. And also, one doesn't have, if they have two brothers that are dividing two parts of the property, and there's a window that's open from one part to the other, usually when you have a window, so you get the rights to that window, and your brother can't build a wall, or your neighbor that is, can't build a wall to block the light of your window. But over here in this case, when you sold, you divided and sold one portion of the property to your brother, so now he's allowed to go and build a wall to block your window. You don't get any rights for a window. You gave it to him buying Yafa completely. And also, if it's fields and you need water, in order to get water into your property, you can't draw a water canal through your brother's property to bring it into your property. You gave it to him by Yafa, you have no rights to draw the water through his property. And then he said, Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, Vizaruben, be careful with these halachas, these details mentioned here. Shalachas kvu is saying, these are established halachas. This is how we paskin, that a person that sells is selling buying Yafa. This was Shmuel's opinion. Okay, there's a discussion in Rishonim here about what it says there, because this case is different than what we discussed before. Before, we're talking about a situation where you have a lekeach and a meicher, a buyer and a seller. What's unique about this case actually is that you have two brothers that are splitting. Here, as much as the one on the inside is a seller selling to the one on the outside, which is the buyer, it's the same thing in the reverse. The brother on the outside is also a seller that's selling to the one on the inside that's the buyer, because they're splitting. Each one is taking his part in exchange for the other person. So you can't really define one being the meicher and the other being the lekeach. So the Rishonim will here all discuss why are we viewing it from this point that's saying that the one on the inside is the seller, the meicher, and the one on the outside is the buyer. Okay, but there's different perushim with this. The Rashbam talks about it. What the Rashbam says is not clearly, at least I don't clearly understand what he's saying. It is the Mefarshim asking this Rashbam. But the point here is that the one that's on the inside, the reason we're focusing on him as the seller and the one on the outside as the buyer is because here the question that's relevant is he going to get a portion of the property of the person outside to be able to walk through? That's what's negeya here. When we view it the other way around, even though it's also true that the one on the outside is the seller and the one on the inside is the buyer, but the one on the outside doesn't need anything from the one on the inside. He doesn't need any space by him. He doesn't have to walk into his house in order to get into his house on the outside. He doesn't have that need. So therefore, we're discussing it from this perspective regarding this ayin ra and ayin yafa, whether you can get space to walk through. That's the simple pshat over here.
But the lashon is oichen shecholku.
Yeah, true. It is correct. But legabe, what we're discussing, legabe the pathway, we're viewing the one on the inside as the seller and the one on the outside as the buyer. Now, Rav argued in this, and Rav said, Yeshlen, that no, in such a case, we say, just like by any case of a buyer and a seller, that as Rav paskined before, that a person that sells ba'ayin ra, and that what that means is that when you sell to someone, you keep for yourself. Yashla, you do keep to yourself a pathway and the ladder that you have to go up and the window and a way for the water to get to your property, because you didn't sell it fully. You're selling it, but you need access for certain things. You left that out of the sale. So here we see again the same point that Rav and Shmuel are arguing, just like they argued before regarding a regular sale, whether we pass like the Chacham or Rabbi Akiva. Guess what the Gemara explains. Don't think that this is Rav and Shmuel repeating the same machlekes again because tzricha. Really, it's necessary to say the machlekes in both cases regarding a regular case of a sale and the case here of brothers that are dividing. Because the yashmin and bahi, if I would say in the case over there, by the and the yashmin and bahi, if I would say by the case over there. By the brothers, he goes in the case of the brothers that they were dividing. Then I would say he kamerav. Maybe it's only there that Rav said that a brother that's dividing, he's dividing ba'ayin ra. He still wants the access of these different things that he needs. He kamerav, and the reason is mishum da'am alei, because the brother that now gets the inside property or the inside house, he says to his brother, "Ba'ina lemeidaba keheched edare be'avasi." I want to have the rights, when I get my portion of my father's properties, to live here in the same way that my father did. Teida, and I'll bring you proof of this, that a child, when he inherits, should be in the same position as the father. The pasuk in Tehillim says, that in the place of the father comes the son. So there, maybe only by a Yerusha, you say that when he takes the inside house, he gets it with the access of the way to go in there, just like the father had that access. But over here, when it comes to a regular sale, you're selling a house and you're keeping the pit of water for yourself. Maybe he would agree to Shmuel that here we paskin that you sold the house fully and you did not keep for yourself access to the pit in this house. And then we say the same point also in the reverse. If the machlekes would only say, in this case, by a regular sale of a house with a pit inside of it, I would say maybe v'hach kama Shmuel. Only here is it that Shmuel said that you sold a house and you didn't sell the pit and you get no access to it. Aval b'ha, or the Ger says you switch the words, b'hach b'ha. And anyways, b'ha over here regarding the brothers that are dividing the inheritance, Rav, maybe here I would say he agrees to Rav for the reason we said before, because a child should get the same kind of access the way the father had it when he lived in the house. And maybe here he agrees to Rav. So therefore, tzricha, it was necessary to say the machlekes regarding selling ba'ayin yafe or ba'ayin ra in both cases, regarding a regular sale and regarding brothers that are splitting an inheritance. Now the Gemara concludes the halacha lemaisa regarding this case. Amalei Rav Nachman le Rav Huna. Rav Nachman, which was the student of Shmuel, he was following Shmuel's opinion, and then he said to Rav Huna, which was a student of Rav, and said like Rav. So he asked him, Hilchasek kevasin. So Rav Nachman asks, is the halacha like I said? Like I said in the name of Shmuel? Or is the halacha b'paya like what you said? Amalei, so Rav Huna tells Rav Nachman, Hilchasek v'saychel. We pasking like you said in the name of Shmuel, which is that kol ha-moicher ba'ayin yofe moicher. Why? The Mikarvisu lebave the Reish Galusa, because you live right near the house of the Reish Galusa. Rav Nachman was actually a son-in-law by the Reish Galusa. The Reish Galusa was the head of all the Yidden that took care of all matters of Yidden and Galus, and he was a son-in-law and lived over there. The Shchichi Dayani. That's where the judges, the Bezdin was over there by the Reish Galusa. So Rav Nachman that was living right there, and he always saw how the Bezdin paskin, and he knows that the halacha b'payil was like Shmuel said, and therefore Rav Huna says, even though I heard from Rav differently, but we're going to paskin like you that sees b'payil that the Bezdin paskins this way, like you said. Okay, another case the Gemara brings in connection to this. Itmar, we learned the halacha regarding the following case. Shnei batim zelef nemizeh. If there are two houses, one is the outside house, and then if you have to walk through to go then to the inside house. Now, a person owned both of these houses, and he's selling both of these houses. So shneim b'mecher. If he's selling both of these houses, and one person is buying the outside house, and the other person is buying the inside house. So the same question comes up. The person that bought the inside house, does he get the rights of a pathway to go through to his inside house? Or shneim b'matana. If he's giving both of these houses as a gift to two people, one the outside house and one the inside. So in this case, ein lahem derech zeh al zeh. There's no pathway that one has over the other. The one living on the inside does not get any pathway to go through. And over here, there's no machlekes about this. The whole machlekes we had before, whether you get a pathway, is when the seller is keeping for himself something. If the seller would keep for himself the inside house, or the seller keeps for himself a pit that's inside this house. Here the question is, when the seller sold a house and he's keeping something for himself, did he mean to leave for himself access as well? Or maybe not. We say, no, ba'ayin yafe moicher, he didn't leave any access. Here though, the question is not between the seller and the buyer. Here, he's selling everything to two people. So now when he sells to these two people, he's selling to each one their section of the house completely. The outside one gets his section of the house completely. The inside one gets his section of the house completely. And they're going to have to work it out between each other after the sale that the inside guy is going to have to buy now and access from the outside. Now, kol shekei, needless to say, that if the case here is chitzon b'matana, that the one that got the outside house got it as a gift. And then when you give it a gift, there's more of a svara that you're giving it generously and you're giving it fully. You're not even looking to get paid. You just want to give it as a gift. Upnimi b'mecher, the one that got the inside house from the seller, he got it as a sale. He bought it. So definitely in such a case, you intend to give the one that you're giving the gift to on the outside fully. That he does not have to give access to the one on the inside. He's going to have to buy it separately. Now, how about if the case is the reverse? Chitzim b'mecher, the one that got the outside house, bought it actually. Upnimi b'matana, the one that's getting the inside house, he's getting it as a gift. So Savamina, they thought, the students that were learning this halacha thought to apply and say the same thing here, that ein lem derech zelzeh, that there's no pathway that the one on the inside has on the one on the outside. Even though the one on the inside got it as a gift, and a gift you get it more. You're getting so, but nevertheless, since these two people are each independently, one's getting a gift, one is buying, but they're both each getting their section of the house independently, buying it from him. So then the one on the inside has no pathway to go through to get to his inside house unless he's gonna buy it separately from the other person that now owns the outside house. But regarding this case, the Gemara says v'loihi, that this is not true. Because Milay Tanan, didn't we learn in a Mishnah here later in this Pedic? The Mishnah says that there's a difference between a sale and a gift. There the Mishnah is talking about certain cases when you sell that according to the Rabbanon, you get no access. That you bought it, but now you don't have access to what you bought, you're going to have to buy that separately. But when do you say that? In a sale. But when you're giving someone a gift, nice and as kulon. By a gift over there, you're giving a gift generously, and you want to give him it fully with the access that he needs. So Alma, what we see from that Mishnah is man de yav matane ba'ayin yafa yav. When a person gives a gift, he's giving it with a good eye, he's giving it generously. So therefore we apply that over here as well. When the inside house was given as a gift and the outside house was being sold, so hachanami, I say, man de yav matane ba'ayin yafa yav. The one that you gave the gift to, which is the inside house, because that's the one that you gave generously, we definitely assume that in that gift is included an access to the inside house. So therefore, the one that bought the house on the outside he's gonna have to give a pathway to the one that got it as a gift, that got the inside out as a gift. And that's even, the Rashbam explains, that's even according to Rabbi Akiva. Even Rabbi Akiva, that says that that not only when you give a gift, but even when you sell generously. But still, Rabbi Akiva will agree, when you give a gift, it's with more of a ayin yafa. It's more generously than when you sell. In the end of the day, when you sell, you're doing it for the money. When you give a gift, it's because you want to show appreciation, and you're not going to give a person a gift and not give him any access to that gift that you're giving him. So over here, even Rabbi Akiva will agree that if the one on the inside got the house as a gift, and the one on the outside is getting it by buying it, the one on the inside, you gave him the gift with the access. It's understood that he gets that access of the pathway to go to his house.
Well, Spasha is not a gift.
Right, otherwise he has no access to it. Yeah. Sagt Eilige Mishnah. Additional halachas regarding a person selling a house. What's included in this? Hamaycheres habayis, a person sells a house. Malcheres adeles, the door of the house is sold with the house. The door is not something that you usually remove from one place or another. It's part of the house, so it's sold with the house. Aval loyes hamaftech, the key to the house is not sold with the house. I guess in those days a key was not like a cheap little thing the way it is today. So the key to have those days, they had these wooden keys or these big large keys, these big. So the key, which is a movable item, is not sold together with the house. The point that we'll see here, the Mishnah explains, is that different kinds of movable items, even if they're movable items that belong to be used with the house, for the house, but because it's a movable item, it's not included in the sale of the house. You have to pay for that separately. If there's a mortar in the house that is kvua, that's affixed in the floor of the house, that's something that's included in the sale of the house. But if there's a mortar that could be moved from one location to the other in the house, that's not included in the sale of the house. It's trubel is this base for the mill that you have. The mill has two stones, the bottom stone, the upper stone, and then there's this trubel, which is some kind of base for this mill. So that's fixed in its place, and therefore that is sold with the house. Avaloi es akeles. But not the keles, which is a funnel where they place the kernels of the wheat that it goes into the mill. So that funnel is something which could be moved around from one place to another. It's not included in the sale. And v'loyas a not a oven, v'loyas a kirayim, and not a stove, which are also things not even today, a stove or oven could be moved around. So over here as well, this could be moved around from one place to another. It's not part of the sale of the house. Now, however, bisman sha'amaloy, if the seller tells the buyer that I'm selling you the house as is with everything included inside. They clearly told him everything included. Then all these things that we just mentioned, even though they're movable things, but it's all going to be included in the sale of the house. But here the Rashbam clarifies that doesn't mean that any movable items you find in the house will be included in the sale, including movable items that are not even necessary for the house itself, that are not related to the usage of the house itself. If there's any other valuables that have nothing to do with the house itself, that's not included in the sale. It means these kind of movable items, like the key and different things like that are related to the usage of the house, those are the things that will be included in the sale of the house when he told him everything that's in it, related to the usage of the house. Shall we say that the Mishnah here that says that these movable items are not included in the sale is not following the opinion of Rav Meir? Because the Rav Meir, if it would follow Rav Meir, Rav Meir here says later in the Perek, Mochar esa kerem, later in the next Perek, a person sells a vineyard. What's included in the sale of a vineyard? Mochar tashmishe kerem. What's included in this is the different things that are used in the vineyard. And this refers to, for example, in a vineyard, in order to have the vines to grow, you have to have these rods.
Trellis.
What is it called?
Trellis.
A trellis, okay. So these rods that are included in the sale as well. Even though it's something which is physically movable, you could move it from one place to another, but it's included in the sale. What did it say in our Mishnah? All these things in the house that are movable, they're not included in the sale. Says the Gemara, no, I can tell you our Mishnah follows even Rav Meir, because Hasam Kfiyah, over there by the vineyard, even though it's physically a movable item, but it's something that's affixed into the ground. So that's something that's included. Hacha loikvia. Here, though, what the Mishnah is saying is the oven, the stove, the different things that you can, they're not affixed to the ground. They're not stuck into the ground of the house. They can be moved around easily. Those are the things that are not included in the sale of the house. In fact, the Gemara, but the Mishnah mentions a key. Now, apparently in those times, there were different kinds of keys. There were keys that, it's like the key today, you put into the door, you take out, and you keep in your pocket. But then there was the keys in those times that basically served like a handle to the door. It wasn't really a key that was made to lock the door, but it's a key that was kept always in the door, and with the key, you turn the door to open it. That's another kind of key, right? So there's both of them could be taken out of the door and could be moved around. But one is made to stay there, and one is made to take out. Now the Mishnah mentions the mafteach, the key that's not included in the sale. It's dumya dedelis, and when it says the key, it's talking about a key that's similar to a door, katani. Just like the door is always there in its place, the key that we're talking about in this Mishnah is even a key that remains inside the door. Ma'adel is the kviya, and therefore just like the door is something that remains in its place always, af mafteach the kviya. The key that the Mishnah is talking about when it says that the key is not included in the sale, it's talking about a key that always remains in its place. The Rashbam explains, when it comes to the mortar, the Mishnah makes a distinction. Depends what kind of mortar it is it fixed in the ground, is it not? When it comes to the key, the Mishnah doesn't make that distinction. Why not? Apparently, because the Mishnah holds regarding the key, there's no difference. It doesn't make a difference if it's a key which is usually remaining in the door or a key that you usually take out of the door. It's not included in the sale. So if so, according to Rav Meir, that key that remains in the door should be included in the sale, similar to the rods in a vineyard that even though they're physically movable, but they remain in their place. Ella, therefore, the Gemara concludes, Machmarte, the best pshat, the clear pshat here is that Masnisim the like Rav Meir. This Mishnah does not follow Rav Meir's opinion. Tana Rabbanon and a Braisa we learned about the same halacha that it says in the Mishnah, a little bit of a different opinion than what it said in the Mishnah. Hamaycher is abayis, a person sells a house, mochar sadeles, he sold the door, vesanagar, and the bolt of the door as well, which is always there, usually remains in the door, vesamanol, and the lock, which is always in the door, avaloy samafteach, not the key, which could be taken out. Now, according to this opinion, the mortar that's included in the sale is only a mortar that carved out, part of the house mamish. It's literally carved out, so it's part of the mamish, the house itself. But not a mortar that was made separately and then was affixed and built into the house. So this is arguing in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says as long as it's affixed to the house, it becomes part of the house, then it's included in the sale. But the time of this Braisa says it's only if it's chakuka, if it's engraved part of the house. Now, machara itztrubel, mentioned the Mishnah, this itztrubel, this base to the mill is included in the sale. Avaloyas hakeles, but not the funnel of the mill, and loyas satana, not an oven, loyas kirayim, not a stove, loyas arichayim, and not the mill itself, all things that can be moved around. Rabbi Eliezer says, and Rabbi Eliezer is really the opinion of the Tana of our Mishnah, kol ha'mechubel lekarka, anything that's now attached to the ground, harei karka. It's like the ground itself, and therefore it will be included in the sale. Rabbi Eliezer is arguing regarding the case of the machteshes, that even though chatchila the machteshes was made as a separate thing, but if it's then established into the ground of the house, then it's part of the sale of the house. Now the Braisa continues, like it said in our Mishnah, Bizman sha'am aloi, if the seller says, Hu v'chol ma shebetoichai, that I'm selling you the house and everything that's included in it, harei kulam mechurin, everything will be sold. But benkach or benkach, even when you add that, either way, when you sell a house, this is going back already to what we learned in the Mishnahs before, leimachar loyas haboyer, included in the sale of the house is not a pit that's made for water, and v'loyas hadus, and not a cistern for water, and v'loyas hayitzia, and not another area that's an annex to the house. So we learned in the beginning of the Pedic, that's also not included in the sale of the house. Okay, we'll stop here today. The continuation goes all the way to the next blot.